Start your engines. Live and brought to you by the Parker Hannifin Motion Systems Group. Broadcasting from Tippecanoe Studios in Cleveland, Ohio, this is Hydraulic Valve Dialog.
Where the clearances are tight, the performance demands are high, and the oil is hot. I'm Brian Bernick.
And I'm Mitch Eichler saying avast, ye mateys, as we explore the value-added systems team.
It's the first piece of a multi-part series we're calling The Power of Parker, diving into the synergy of various groups, divisions, and the value we bring our customers. And this team certainly does just that. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the value-added systems team, Mr. Dan Detweiler.
Well, let's get started because today, like every day, it's a beautiful day to make valves, and this is Hydraulic Valve Dialog. Dan, welcome to the program.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have you on the program.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are at Parker, and then we can transition into how that power of Parker phrase fits into your team, hear a little bit about what you guys do and how you help our customers every day.
Great, thank you. So my role is the Value-Added Systems and Technical Services Team Manager. So within the role that I have, we're part of the Fluid Power Field Sales Team. So I report over to Mike Delaney, and every day our job is to work with the Fluid Power Field Sales TMs and those distributors, the Full Line Fluid Connector and the Hydraulic Technology Center distributors, solving customers' problems, doing solutions, whether it's on the Fluid Connector side or the Motion Systems Group side. Prior to that, before that, I was the regional manager for the Northeast, not only for the fluid power, but if you recall, before fluid power, the teams were split up. So there was a separate fluid connector and hydraulic regional managers. So I actually moved into the RM role quite a few years back, 14 more years ago, as the regional manager for the hydraulic group.
So when was the value-added services team created?
So the team has
systems team. Sorry, right? I screwed that up. Value-added systems team.
Systems, you got it. So the team itself, I moved into this role 2013-14. Prior to that, we did have hydraulic systems engineers, but they typically reported directly to each independent regional manager. But in order to have a more holistic point of view and provide a single point of contact for support and the management of this team, this role was created, and I was happy to be able to move into it because it's a great role with a super team that I manage. Very proud of the team that I have, and the results are always good. I can confidently say that when you engage with our team, our win rate is 90% plus. So,
nice. That's awesome. So Mitch is more of the industrial side and interfaces with your team more often. So how does this differ from, say, the Global Mobile Systems team?
That's a really good question, and a question I get a lot, right? So pretty much anything that has to do with distribution and those customers, my team is involved from the hydraulic systems engineering and the controls engineering role. So if it goes through distribution, we're there to help. So it doesn't necessarily mean just industrial. There's a lot of mobile applications that we get involved with. The difference with the Global Mobile team is they're directly working with the Global Mobile sales team. So I should refer to Dennis Allen, manages the Global Mobile Systems team out of Elk Grove Village and has an extremely talented separate group of engineers that work out of that facility. I will say that we've got a great relationship with them. If we get in and over our heads on a piece of mobile equipment or technology that team is better suited to provide support on, we reach out to them and we tap into that resource as we need it. But essentially, they manage those accounts that are done through the Global Mobile team. Anything through Parker Distribution is us.
Okay, so you guys are doing industrial and mobile, and let's face it, mobile applications are just much, much better and much more interesting.
It's interesting. The amount of mobile applications that we have through distribution continues to increase. I would still say on the average, the industrial applications still probably make up 90% of what my team works on a daily basis. But as we see the move towards, electrification, and we see the need for the small and medium-sized OEMs looking for help with their mobile hydraulic systems, we see a need for us even to get a lot better with this technology. So there's a lot of work on my team to become more comfortable with that new technology that Parker's focused on.
Well, that's good to hear, and it's I think we learned a little bit about kind of where your focus is. Maybe we both had a little bit of misconception there. So I'll hit you, Dan, with kind of an off the cuff analogy that the way I think of your team, and this is Brian will smile because he knows this is a key thing for me. It's you guys are kind of the Avengers. And these divisions, we're like the states, the army, the police. Like we can keep things under control a lot of the times, but like gets to your level, like we really need some help, some expertise. Do you think that's apt?
Well, I don't know that we've got any superhuman or superhero costumes. I just that would be an interesting picture to paint. But when it comes right down to it, we do tend to get involved when the applications are a bit more challenging. The easy stuff, certainly, we've got excellent hydraulic technology center distributors with their own engineering teams. They can handle all of these applications. If it gets a little more complex, if there's combined technologies, or if they just want Parker support, on the engineering side, that's what we're here to do. And the team that I have. So if you think about my team, I've got 5 hydraulic systems engineers that are regionally located across the United States. And then I have 2 motion systems controls engineers who are not regionally assigned at all in Rashid Adoun and Dave Hamby. As we look at controls and the controls of hydraulic systems, the need to have engineers that can go beyond the hydraulic design and understand control architecture is really important and becomes more important with every passing year as this technology gets smarter. So that's how we split up on the motion systems group side. But I don't want to ignore the fluid connector group side. The regional application engineers I have, they're wizards when it comes to looking at fluid conveyance systems and showing customers the best way to do something. And that's not only training personnel on the best way to do things, but hose routing, for example. That's a critical part of systems.
I believe Ryan Snow is a part of the regional application guys.
Yeah, well, somebody from near and dear to Valve Division. So yeah,
I don't know if he's dear to us, but he was near to us for a very long time.
So yeah, Ryan joined the team a couple years ago, and he was a quality engineer at your division there in Elyria, and looking for an opportunity to get a little more cross group experience in a customer facing role. So he's done a great job for us. He is still there in the Ohio area, but he's got the entire eastern zone, so he covers the eastern half of the U.S. On the western half, I've got Brian Franzak. Brian came to Parker as a CAD designer, and then moved into technical services there at the facility in Wickliffe in Ohio, and really spent his days looking at hoses and assessing hose failure analysis and doing all the things that can help make customers' solutions better. And he moved into the team back in 2016, 17, I think, 16. He's out on the west. He's out in Phoenix, so he does a great job with the western half. Really, it's great to have somebody that has that technical services background on the fluid connector side, coming right out of hose projects division and just being right out in front of customers every day, working with distribution on the west.
That's great. So we've got hydraulic systems engineers, motion systems controls engineers, and regional application engineers. And to keep that Avengers theme going, you're like the Nick Fury of this team, keeping everybody together. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, my role, when people ask me what my opinion or what my role is, I said I manage a group of extremely smart individuals that Parker's lucky to have, and our distribution and customers will enjoy working with. So
I hope you never let those guys all get on the same plane together or anything like that.
yeah,
Continuity of government. It's like they keep the people back from the big speeches.
Yeah, right now we're just happy to see them being able to get back on the planes and get out in front of customers and do support, which we're doing more of now. So we're coming out of some of those complete lockdown. And let's be honest, these guys do a lot of work out of their home offices, working on engineering, but they're probably bring the most benefit to the customers when they're there side by side, looking at what's going on with specific applications. Might be a new application, might be a troubleshooting application. It might be, here's a piece of equipment, how can we make it better? And that's where these guys come in and do their part.
Good deal. So I guess, can we get into some of the applications that your team has been a part of? And obviously we don't have to say customers or anything along those lines, but
Sure.
some of examples and how you guys configured and perfected a winning solution.
To get the power of Parker out there to those different customers and different applications. So I'm sure there's collaboration between your more motion systems focused guys and the fluid connectors guys. So yeah, help paint that as you're the first Power of Parker guest, and with good reason, because your team is really getting it done.
Bingo.
No, I appreciate that. So if you think about a typical application, how does that come to us? It 95% of the time or greater, it's coming through our distribution network. So it's coming through either a full line fluid connector, it's coming through a hydraulic technology center, or in some cases, we know those distributors are the same entity, where a customer has a problem, they need help, and we apply the appropriate personnel to the problem. So even though my guys are regionally located, we do document. I document what their market expertise and experience is, and you want to make sure that you're bringing the best possible people to the problem if you can. So it's funny, as we talk about industrial and mobile, and we start talking about what projects to talk about. I guess I've got a couple different examples, right? Because some of these do not use hydraulics at all, or limited hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of a wide range of motion control solutions, and within the two groups, the motion systems group and fluid connector group, we're going to help the distributor find the solution that's best fitted for the application. Challenging applications. I will give you one that we can talk about in general. So if you will, envision a high-rise building that is seeing the effects of an earthquake and how that building may be swaying based on that, or even a bridge and how it's impacted by that. We worked with an OEM that makes the dampers that actually helps absorb that and protect the infrastructure, in a civil engineering type of a project. So these dampers can be up to 24-inch bore. They were looking for a test stand to test their actuators or their dampers. And it's basically where their end customers will come in with a motion profile of what that damper will see based on a true simulation of an earthquake, for example. But what that means for a test stand, and again, you got to keep in mind 24-inch bore, they wanted a test stand that could move that actuator at 100 inches per second or down to 1,000th of an inch per second.
Wow.
So think of the range there. We're talking about 1.5 million pounds of force that this thing is doing. So,
Jeez.
When
Brian,
you
you were
think
just
about
lifting 1.5 million last week, right? You got a nice gym at your house.
Got to go to rehab now, but it is what it is. What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's only a flesh wound. Don't worry about it. Just keep pushing. So, when you think about applications like that, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And the traditional way would be to throw a massive hydraulic power unit at it, tons of energy being used, extremely high cost. And that's not what the customer was looking to do. So, in this case, what we ended up doing, and this was a project that was led by Dave Hanby. If you think about a D41FP as the master valve, pretty much controlling 8 TPQ80 DIN three ways.
Jeez.
If you have all those three ways in parallel with the D41FP as the master, you've basically created a 10,000 GPM servo valve, right? So we introduced Parker motion controllers for all the hydraulic functions and the HMI testing. We've got SSD drives in there, 150 horsepower drive. So we introduced drive control pump into it, so that we're taking the advantage of controlling the electric motor's torque and RPM to help get the flow and pressure that we need at the appropriate time. There's a cooling loop on there. We use a PV 180 as our core hydraulic pump, but essentially it's accumulators. And if you do the sizing for accumulators for a system with that much flow, pretty much you start looking at 850 gallons of
That's it?
hydraulic fluid. Yeah, it's 850. But if you get the right team involved and you get the plumbing correct, then you have an efficient system. And you start using gas bottles, you can get that down to 160 gallons. So, we worked with our distributor that was involved, and they built the power unit. They built the test stands. We helped with the integration, the HMI interface, and some customized software. And it is a thing to watch a 24-inch actuator move at 100 inches per second. And unless you know hydraulics the way we do, you just don't understand how complicated it is to get that big of a damper moving that fast. So pretty interesting stuff.
It's like Mitch's relationship status. It's complicated.
Well,
Anyway.
sometimes those relationships are working really fast. And in this case, but Mitch, the application also says that we have to very finely control this actuator or dampener at 1/1000th of an inch per second. So, we can do both. Keep everybody happy.
That's awesome.
So Dan, listening to the application you had mentioned, could you just elaborate on the drive control pump that you're using and how that interacts with the system?
Sure, appreciate it. And even with this application, when you look at the controls engineers that I have, Dave is he is the lead when it comes to Parker motion controllers and integrating the system. Rashid Adoun is our drive control pump expert. He's presented at seminars. He's written white papers around it. We've done webinars around it as well. But if you think about a drive control pump, essentially what you're doing is you're taking full advantage of the electric motor's capabilities to get the system to provide just the power you need when you need it. If you think about traditional hydraulic systems, right, you oversize the power unit based on, when in doubt, have more, flow and greater pressure than what you need. But we all know when you do a system and you design it that way, having all that excess all generates heat. It's not very energy efficient. Quite frankly, it's not very quiet. There's a lot of things you can do differently.
And it's just big, right? You're building a much bigger skid.
Doesn't sound very American to me.
Yeah, and it's a technology that continues to expand. Let's think about it. You have to have the electric motor that's rated to be used with a variable frequency drive. You have to have a wide range of variable frequency drive products with the horsepower ranges and all the connectivity that you need based on the type of system you're working with. And you marry that with a pump, and it can be an open loop piston pump. It can be a fixed displacement pump. We have helical gear pumps that are extremely quiet. For us at Parker, we don't say one particular solution, fits everybody. It's what of those three main components, including the the secret sauce, as one distributor told me, is really the macros or the software that drives all of this, and
Hmm.
that's where my team's expertise comes into play. Um, it's the software that makes the application as efficient as possible. At the end of the day, you want to have just the horsepower and pump that you need to get the job done. Um, and whether it's this big application that I was talking about, I mean, a very common one, we'll get involved with. Well, there was an automotive one I can think of where they had a CNC area that had 9 different small power units running all different aspects of this 9-station CNC cell. And ultimately, what we found is one DCP unit with the appropriate valving could do the work of all of that. And the customer's like, well, this is great, but how do we actually show that it's worthwhile? And that's where the energy audits come in. So we went in and did an energy audit on their current system, provided a report on what their current energy consumption was, made an estimate of the ROI and the ROI of what a DCP type system could do for them. And this may be an extreme, but this was close to a 90% energy reduction.
Wow.
Instead of having those 9 little gear pump driven, typical little pump hydraulic systems running all the time, typically at 31% of the time sitting there, compensating, let's have one power unit doing the job and providing the flow and pressure when you need it. So there's a lot to be said for this technology. And in this case, we went back in and did the energy audit. And we typically do this after the machine is up and running with our DCP to show the energy savings that they're getting. Saying it in a proposal is one thing, confirming it and showing it with a test after the fact that really helps with your credibility.
Absolutely. And just to be able to show all of that value in your energy audit, Gary Kleiner is probably jumping out of his chair every time you do that.
Value capture, Gary, right? And Gary has been involved with many of our projects. We did one application with a customer where they wanted to design, an industry first in their market. And ultimately, we were successful doing that. And we actually had Gary come in and help, and he actually met with their sales and marketing teams to improve the quality of their marketing material to show how much better this machine was than their competitors based on the things that we were able to help them do with a complete solution, which not only was DCP, but it was the fluid conveyance. They were in a industrial washing, commercial washing market. You certainly don't want to have leaks, right? So we brought in our RAEs and we did a hose routing analysis and getting the right products. So make their machine quieter, more efficient, faster than the competition, and there's no leaks. They're pretty happy with us, and that's the way we like it.
That sounds great, and it absolutely sounds like the power of Parker. So 2 quick points. One, those drive control pumps, which in some cases, I know you can do pump controlled actuation and maybe you eliminate some valves, but we're Parker as a whole. We're not just one division or a series of divisions, so that's great. I know we've got a drive control pump on one of our test stands, and I think my dishwasher's probably louder than that. I mean, it's crazy how efficient that can be. And then just power of Parker. You're pulling everything together, and you're not just looking at it as we're a key. We're looking for a lock. We have these tools. Let's find a way to use them. You're saying, not every solution requires a D41FP. Not every solution requires an electromechanical actuator, and you can kind of find that right, that optimum solution based on an application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, it's interesting. Even though when you think of some people may think of Parker, they think of strictly hydraulics when it comes to motion control, but we ended up doing a PTFE extrusion press. And if you think about, an extrusion press, you typically think hydraulics. Well, this was a close to an 80-ton extrusion press done with a couple of the XFC, 190s. We used that because of the fine control when you're extruding PTFE. And actually, this is a customer that actually sells equipment into Parker facilities. They wanted to be able to control the extrusion rate down to 56 thousandths of an inch per minute. So
And what was
that
the model
reduces the
you
amount of
used there?
scrap.
Something
Pardon?
with an X?
XFs.
Yeah, XFC. So it's an electric cylinder. So it's a roller screw out of our industrial cylinder division.
Awesome.
It's something that my team supports because it comes out of Motion Systems Group. So, in that case, there is no hydraulics. It's strictly an electric cylinder provided by Parker, because the PTFE is not very friendly with hydraulic oil, or I should say vice versa. They did not want hydraulics, but they still wanted very fine control. These are vertical mount type presses, and if there's any issues, they don't want to get anything hydraulic fluid wise on their materials. So, we do have electric cylinders, roller screw type, out of cylinder division to do just that kind of work.
Again, just another point that you guys are bringing in so many different groups, divisions, just everything that Parker has to offer. You're hitting the nail on the head in showing the power of Parker and everything that your team can bring to a customer application. So thank you.
Well, with that, I think it's a good time for us to pause and take a break. So thanks for sticking with us so far. We'll be back in just a moment with more exciting information from Dan Detweiler.
MFP Automation Engineering is your one-stop shop to all turnkey solutions. With over 30 years of experience in hydraulic, pneumatic, and automation industries, MFP is ready to serve now more than ever. We have access to over $100 million worth of inventory around the country and can ship nearly any part or product same day. We're ISO certified, and whether you're in need of systems engineering, custom manifolds, power units, automation systems, servicing or repair, on-site installation, light assembly, or even training, MFP has all of the solutions to fit all of your needs. Our team of engineers and customer service are waiting to serve you today. Check us out at mifp.com. M as in Michigan, I, F as in fluid, P as in power, mifp.com. MFP Automation Engineering, full system solutions, total flexibility.
And we're back with Dan Detweiler. Brian, what do you got?
Well, we seem to touch on kind of a industrial type application. And,
My favorite. I don't play favorites, but if I did, that's my favorite.
Yeah, whatever. So I'm a pretty selfish guy. Dan, do you have anything that would hit more close to home on the mobile side that your team has worked on? The mobile side being the best side that Parker has to offer.
Yeah, there's a couple examples I think we could talk about. So, the one that from the regional application engineer on the fluid connector side, one of the things that Brian Franzak worked on was with an OEM that introduced what we believe is the longest extension telehandler that we've ever worked on. So if you think about a massive telehandler that can extend out to over 200 feet. So I'm not the one that really would want to ride on that. I'm not that, during high school, I did work for a landscaper and climb trees with a chainsaw in my hand. But hey, at minimum wage, it was a great job.
Do you have all your fingers still?
I have all my fingers, and come on, I was making $2.95 an hour, and I didn't have to push a lawnmower, so I was pretty happy at the time.
They tell you, just Dan, go climb a tree.
Yeah. So, you think about laying out the fluid conveyance system for something that has that type of a boom on it, and the base with the 4 articulating wheels, it gets pretty darn complicated. And we did a tremendous job with it. In fact, I should say Brian, and ultimately that allowed Parker to come back in, because once we showed them what we could do with that very challenging machine, it certainly opened the doors for us to come in and look at other machines. I do have one that you might like to talk to you. So this is a little bit, but and I'll mention this name just because one of the best parts of this job is getting in to see locations and plants and customers So, I've been into SpaceX, I've been into military facilities, I've been on board the aircraft carriers, I've been in steel mills, and the variety of our customers and what we do here in the U.S. and what our customers do is what makes this an awesome job, because it's always something different. In this case, think about one of those SpaceX rockets, and we know how successful they are. And I think it's really cool to see what the private sector is doing and going to continue to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of a very large dolly as a hydraulic application, that is one that we work with a distributor on. And with that, it was all remote control. We were using the Parker's ICANN system. Actually, in this case, driving industrial valves, D1FBs.
Ooh, see, Brian, you asked for mobile, he gave it to you, and he sent it right back to the industrial side.
Yeah. And I didn't mean to do that. I feel so bad.
I bet you do.
But so it is interesting that when you look at those applications, you can marry those technologies. And I really don't want to miss out on Brian's mobile. So I will tell you that we do have one that we've worked on that is a remote, I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. Think of about a Humvee that is remote control, completely, no human intervention at all, other, as far as on the vehicle. And that vehicle, being a electric vehicle, zero emissions, but there's still a lot of hydraulics on it. All of the attachments are all hydraulics. And to see that thing go down the road at high speed with knowing there's nobody physically on it is some amazing stuff. And in that case, there were L90s on there. So,
oh man, you double dipped, mobile and L90. So Dan, I think you made up for it.
Yeah. So we got the L90s, and the Parker has. Out of the electromechanical drives, we got the GVM motor, which is just a fantastic motor for anything when you're in the mobile market and electrification. So that's the core of the electrical side of it. So really, marrying the valves, marrying the motors, marrying the ECD products like ICANN, P1 pumps, gear pumps. I mean, this particular machine has everything on it, and it's something that will be used by emergency response organizations, potentially as additional energy on site when needed during times when they need power on site and there's no power available. So they actually are designing units that would come on site, be driven in remotely, and provide power as needed in a kind of a catastrophic environmental type situation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, Dan, I got to say that is awesome. I mean, you really hit me in the heart with the L90, and I love it. And I figured you were going to lead me down a road of, it's a mobile application because it's a Humvee. It has wheels, but we used a D1FP. But you used the L90, and
it's going to keep him going all day. I guess you here's kind of an off the wall one. We've used the word electrification a couple times. We've talked about the GVM. We've talked about the drive control pump and the SSD drives. What does electrification mean to you, and how do you see the traditional fluid power industry evolving to not just throw away everything that has oil in it, but become more electrified?
Yeah, electrification is just a tremendous opportunity for Parker. If you look at whether it's industrial or mobile, what can be done by marrying, the electric products, along with the hydraulic and even potentially hybrid type solutions. It will be the thing that will move us into the future, no different than electric vehicles will move us into the future. And you need to be prepared for it. So the biggest changes I see is the need of the engineer that's going to be actually working on these systems. And that's the reason. So think about my team. My team traditionally had hydraulic systems engineers and fluid connector regional application engineers. But as we get into electrification, whether it's industrial or mobile, there is no doubt you need to have engineers that can get into the electric side of it, be familiar with the hardware and the software and the control architecture, whether it's a piece of mobile equipment or industrial. And that's the reason that we have, the motion system controls engineer role. That was a new role as of just a few years ago. It didn't even exist before, but we see that we had to have it. And I think that's the biggest opportunity, but it's also the biggest challenge, because there's a lot of customers that know just enough to know that they want to do it, but they don't necessarily have the engineering horsepower in-house to do it. And they're going to be looking for companies like Parker to work with to get the job done. And that's what we're gearing up to do.
So you got me shaking in my boots just a little bit here. What can HVD, hydraulic valve division, that is, do to stay relevant in this wave of electrification that's sweeping hydraulics?
Well, hydraulics is not going away, right? So, but what hydraulics does on any piece of, say, mobile equipment will be some different functions than what it did before. I mean, when it comes right down to it, the amount of power that you can generate with hydraulics is still significant. And there will always be hydraulics on any type of mobile system, in my opinion. It's just a matter of it's going to be different. I think when you look at valves, it's a matter of having smart valves. So valves that can do more, have tremendous connectivity potential. So it can talk to the controllers that are controlling the electric side of the vehicle, getting the job done, but doing it as efficiently as possible, right? So, and I think that's, if you think about industrial or mobile, one of the big things now is, we're looking for machines that are more intelligent. So if you think about a valve that can tell you how it's performing, is it performing, to its spec? I heard the podcast where you guys were talking about failure modes. Well, what if you had sensors or abilities on the valve itself to actually start to see that it could be failing, and to give an alert? Those are the things that every Parker division should be thinking about and focused on, because that's the future.
That's a good point. And tell me if you think this is right. The way I kind of look at it is the biggest, highest demanding force, flow, response applications will probably be largely hydraulic for a long, long time. Some of those big mining vehicles where the tires are bigger than trucks, those guys are not going to be going to just motor actuation. The smaller applications where maybe you need a lot less force, those are probably some of the primary targets. And I think maybe what makes me not the most nervous, but just where we got to stay agile, is some of those ones in the middle where today maybe you can't quite get the force you need, but you're not orders of magnitude off. So do you think that sounds like what you're seeing from the customers that you work with?
I would say I think that's pretty close, right? And I think it's a matter of what the function is. So if you're talking about a large piece of mining equipment going down the road, and I'm by no means an expert, and quite frankly, the global mobile team would be better suited to probably answer that than what I am. But motion is one thing, but the actual power for the dump, if it's a one of those large dump trucks on a you see it in a mining site, what generates that force? How much force do you need to generate to steer those wheels with that much load? So could the electrification side, could it generate the torque necessary to get that thing rolling down the road? Possibly. Could it generate enough force to actually get those wheels to steer, with that much load on it? That could either go either way in steering systems, right? But the actual lift to get rid of the load that's in the back of the bed, I think is always going to be hydraulic. So I think there's combinations of those, and I think in the middle is probably the most challenging, and that's where I think we're going to see hybrids. We're going to see machines that are in the middle that are a little bit of electrification or electromechanical, and some that are hydraulic. I mean, we see it now with Cylinder Division coming out with their hybrid actuation system with a Haas unit. That's localized power. That's a self-contained little, permanent magnet motor, electric motor directly coupled to a fixed displacement pump, bolted directly to a linear actuator, the cylinder, all doing it within one package. So it's a hybrid in my mind, right? It's a complete product, but as we sell as a part number, but is a mix of technologies. And I think that is going to be extremely common as we move forward into the future.
Still relevant, baby. Need to make sure that check clears next month, though.
Right. We are not going to be the Kodak here, like these crazy digital cameras, and they're never going to catch on. Just make better film. I'm stealing that Tom Ullery-ism in there, so.
Yeah, I do recall that.
Tom has got no shortage of those, right?
No, absolutely not.
So I see, obviously, working on different applications with our distributors. Do you guys do any training, simulations, anything along those lines?
Sure, absolutely. So, training is a big part of what we do because, as I mentioned, the need to have engineers that can embrace these new technologies is significant. So I think Parker is in a position where we need to be the ones that help educate distribution and customers on technologies. So we offer a wide range of training programs. So we have a 5-day, for example, that's just on drive control pump. Ray Riedel, who works right out of your division there in Elyria, is the lead trainer for my team when it comes to the hydraulic systems engineering course. And we're actually right now taking some of the downtime in-person training to actually redo and do a relaunch on the hydraulic systems engineering class to expand it into the new technologies that we see. I mean, if you think about traditional hydraulic systems engineering class, it was more around just a closed loop hydraulic circuit and how to do all those calculations that needed to be done to design and evaluate a closed loop system between the actuator, the feedback, the controller, and the valve. But it's, technology is that's still critical. It's still important. But now we're talking about, how does the motion controller affect, how do you bring that in as far as the overall control architecture? New smart hydraulic pump technology. So we have to start including the things that hydraulic pump and power systems does with their product, that you can actually control the pump. We're seeing more and more opportunities to use, the Gold Cup, a hydrostat into applications where even in industrial, where you would think, well, maybe this is more like crane or more mobile, but it's not. So there's a lot of training that has to take place there. And, we're here to help do that. On the fluid connector side, my guys are there to help with the training. They do, dry technology training. And, dry technology trainer shows the best, most practical way to lay out your fluid conveyance system to make sure that it's an efficient system and there's no leaks. So that's a big part of it.
Minimize those losses and take those leaks down to nothing with some of that great Parker sealing technology, right?
Absolutely. And you mentioned, simulation. Simulation, we've done a lot with and we're doing more with on a daily basis. So I've got a few of the team members that have really embraced it. And I would say they're using simulation software on a daily basis. And we're using it not only to help design hydraulic systems, but also to troubleshoot hydraulic systems. We had one customer that couldn't figure out why their system kept doing something they didn't want it to do. We essentially helped them by building a model of that system using simulation software. And then the software actually showed that what they were seeing is exactly what they should expect based the way they were designing their hydraulic system. So, it's a big part of it. We also use it in training sessions. So, during the initial part of 2020, when people weren't traveling a whole lot, we were doing a lot of training on just basic hydraulic schematic with one of my team members using simulation software to show how things work. And visual is so much better, right?
Oh,
If you lay a
absolutely.
schematic out in front of somebody, you try to tell them, well, now envision this block moves over when you actuate this coil, and it's a little hard to do. But if you use the simulation software, it's a lot better.
So Dan, love all these trainings. So how do our end users, our channel partner distributors, other people at Parker, territory managers, how do they get closer with your team and get those trainings so that they're better prepared to troubleshoot and support the needs of their applications?
So a couple different ways, right? So we do have the motion and control training, which is a corporate entity that Kyle Gerhardstein runs. So, and there's the Parker Learning Institute, which was recently launched. So, the programs and the training is a lot of it is on there. We will be working with Kyle's team to do as much e-learning versions of the training classes that we're talking about as possible, especially when it's the entry level type of courses that might lead you into being qualified to take a hydraulic systems engineer class, for example. But we'd also really encourage everyone just to reach out to your territory manager, whether it's the connector territory manager or the hydraulic territory manager. Let them know that you're interested in training. And we work all of that with the local hydraulic territory manager. We will bring it to you if we possibly can. We do have trainers in the different technologies like the drive control pump, where it's actually a demo and / trainer that we bring to you. So there's opportunities there. It's all a matter of where we are in today's world about person-to-person training, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more of that.
Perfect. I just have to throw the gauntlet down here. Kyle Gerhardstein, a friend of the show, just need to let everyone know that he has a far more superior and better beard than a team member, Ryan Snow, your team member. So just wanted to throw that out there, get it on wax, if you will. So, Kyle, how you doing? Shout out for you.
Looking forward to talking to you soon, Kyle. So then I'm sure we'll get a message from Ryan here. It says he's unsubscribed from Hydraulic Valve Dialog.
Well, Ryan is an avid hockey player on this as his hobby, and I think he shaved his beard a little bit a while ago, and I don't know if they'd let him back on the ice because he didn't have that tough bearded look. Like a tough hockey
I did
player
see
should
him
have.
without the beard a couple of weeks ago. I was pretty stunned because it had been years since I'd seen that. But you can, if we find that Ryan unsubscribed from Hydraulic Valve Dialog, Dan, you can put that on his PPP to give you a summary of each episode, right?
There you go. We'll make it a high percentage one, maybe like a 20%er. So,
That sounds appropriate.
Love it. So, all right. Well, we've touched on the training. We've touched on some of the applications and just bringing your whole team in. So for our end users, our OEMs, our distribution, using Parker products and utilizing your team is just one spoke in the wheel, if you will. So kind of leading you on here, but what else can using Parker products do for our customers?
and I think if you think about the total system, right, and that's what we're all about. Parker's uniquely positioned in that, regardless of the motion technology, we've got solutions for you. So one of the things that I like to say is we want to come in and help as consultants. We want to be the people that you trust. We have to earn that trust, certainly, and in some cases we're asked to back that. So, there are some instances, for example, where we might, back, our consultant point of view on how to design a system with extended warranties. We did a few years back launch the Genuine Parker Parts warranty, which is a complete total system warranty, depending on what you as the OEM might want to sign up for. But if you think about the hydraulics industry, and it's interesting, as in my 35 years in this industry, The two issues with hydraulics has always been contamination, which you guys certainly mentioned in one of your earlier podcasts, in the failure mode of hydraulic systems, and leaks. We as consultants would very much like to look at your hydraulic system and help you understand that there are a lot of ways to keep contamination or to limit contamination as a failure mode within your systems. And I don't know what the percentage is, but if you talk to the quality departments within Parker at the division level and they look at returns, there's a vast majority of the products that come back in have failed due to contamination that got in the hydraulic oil. And I know you guys had talked about the clearances between the spool and sleeve on some of the the valves, but everything has a tolerance when it comes to contamination. So you have to come up with a strategy that protects the hydraulic fluid from contamination. And Parker is willing to back that up if you follow our recommendations, with an extended warranty where we take our standard limited 3-year, limited warranty 12 months and extend that out to a 36 months.
Wow. And is there how does that work? Is there cost to the end user? Is it like when you go to Best Buy and they try to tack on the warranty, or how do we what are the terms of that?
Yeah, so that's funny what you mentioned that. So there's no additional cost, but what is recommended is a bit of work. If you're going to do it right, you want to evaluate not only your current system, but you also have to understand where your systems are going to be. What's the environment that your hydraulic system may be exposed to? You have to share that with us and our distributor. We're going to collectively work as a team between us, Parker, the distributor, and the end customer to do a good assessment of what we need to do. And for example, if it's going to be in a very dirty environment, think about a foundry, for example. Just having filtration isn't enough. You may need a clean vent to make sure that external air doesn't get into your hydraulic reservoir. Think about a typical hydraulic power unit. What do they have on there? A big old filler breather. The only thing that keeps from getting in is marbles. And if you've got marbles getting into your hydraulic system, you've got personnel issues to address that has nothing to do with us. Our goal is to take contamination off the table by asking the OEMs to really look at their equipment and design a system that protects the health of the hydraulic fluid. But that's not the end of it. Once you've sold that piece of equipment, we want to help you understand there's aftermarket opportunities by staying in touch with that piece of equipment. Maybe you want to do remote monitoring, maybe you want to work through the Parker tracking system, PTS, to have triggers that say, okay, this system has now been in operation for 6 months. It's time to change your filters. That's the easiest way to do it. We're also looking for filters that have electric indicators that give a control signal out to the main PLC or the ICANN unit on a piece of mobile equipment. It says, hey, it's time to change me. My filters are about to go into bypass. And the OEM has the opportunity to say how long that signal can be ignored before the end customer voids their warranty, because we're trying to protect the OEM and we're also trying to get a better outcome for the end user for reduced downtime, reduced cost. You start changing out expensive valves and pumps on a regular basis due to contamination, you've spent a lot of money very quickly.
So that sounds like that program is kind of tailor-made, not the golf clubs. It's custom fit for that given application. It isn't just you read in a pamphlet. It's designed based on those operating conditions and application details.
Exactly. So it's not like you give us a credit card for $9.99 and you get a warranty.
Right.
So it's not the electronics industry, which it's always amazing. Everybody wants to sell you the extended warranty, and I think Consumer Reports says no. I think Consumer Reports might say yes to this.
Yes, I agree. And I always turn down the extended warranty.
As you should.
Right. It's a $50 a TV scam.
The other side of that I should probably mention as well is the other issue I mentioned was leaks. So we've done the same with the Fluid Connector Group through the regional application engineers. On a hydraulic system, if it's not contamination, it's leaks. If we can help the customers reduce the leaks on their equipment. It makes for a better reputation for their part. And quite frankly, it makes for a much better life for the end users of that equipment. Think about a piece of mobile equipment going down the highway, leaking. That's not good.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you think about a traditional shop floor, how most shop floors are pretty squeaky clean and shiny and they look nice. Well, you put a nice little hydraulic film on there and that's not good for anybody. So we're also looking for opportunities to come in and look at the fluid conveyance system. And if you do what we ask you to do, using the products we recommend, doing the hose routing, doing the tubing routing that we recommend based on the application, again, specific to the application. We also have a 3-year leak free that says on the threaded connection of all Parker products. So that's the tube adapters and the hose end fittings. If you use what we're asking you to use, you will get a warranty for leak free at the threaded connection. You combine the two, and we've got the ability to take care of two of the biggest issues that most hydraulic users, whether it's an OEM or an end user, will experience. And that's what we're looking for, an opportunity, and we've got the know-how to get it done.
Yeah, I was going to say the whole leaks. I mean, that really hits close to home in the mobile. I mean, generally, I'm dealing with our forestry customers, and you get hydraulic oil all over the place, and Smokey the Bear isn't the only one that's going to be mad at you. So that's awesome. I didn't know that program existed on the fluid connector side. So that's wonderful.
All the more reason to go all in with Parker. It's not just you are getting the highest quality and great reputation and support, but then you just think about years down the road. We didn't just take that first purchase order. So, well, Dan, you have hit on so many awesome topics, and if your bosses, if Mike Delaney and Mike O'Hara are listening, I mean, or if anyone was playing Parker Bingo, you hit about every Parker buzzword from PTS to SSD drives. We covered a huge amount of ground. So if we were to kind of sum it up, I think there's 2 questions I'd ask you. Number 1, can you kind of restate what the value of your value-added systems team is? And number 2, how do we get a hold of you? There's no bat signal. So how do we get you guys when we need help and when our customers want to call you in?
Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity to think about the value. So if you look at the team that I have, there's average 30 years of motion control experience across the team from the motion systems group side, and you've got 10 years on the regional application engineer side on the fluid connector. The experience that we bring, the know-how that we bring can be a great benefit. But to your point, you got to ask. You got to reach out and get us involved, and that's where your local territory manager is, quite frankly, the best resource. There is a very detailed process by which those team members will reach out to me and my team and get us involved. And we evaluate the opportunity. At the end of the day, I manage a lot of very smart engineers that will work their hearts out on something that may be worth a one-off and a very small opportunity. And that's not what I want them working on, right? So I want them working on things that represent a significant opportunity for Parker, not only for the short term, but the long term. So we do evaluate the projects that we work on, and that's where your local territory manager can help out and get us involved.
Well, Dan, we are not all just business here. We have a couple of nonsensical questions that we'd like to get into, but we'd also like to know a little bit more about yourself and what makes you tick and what you do for fun, all that type of stuff. So if you're willing, we'd like to know just a little bit more about the true Mr. Detweiler outside of the value-added systems team.
Oh, I think I would be reticent if I didn't mention. So, happily married for 32 years. Got a couple daughters that are probably your guys' ages or a little older, but one's a nurse, and I'm super proud of her with everything that she was part of and supporting, the patients during this time. And I've got another mother daughter. The younger one is an entrepreneur by major and working for a small business, learning what it's like to do that before she actually goes and probably starts her own business. So really super proud of kids. For fun, my wife and I are avid horse people. So we've got a couple horses. We like doing trail riding, and we've got the big old truck and the trailer, and we go around and do that. My wife will do horse shows. I don't do horse shows. I just drive the vehicle, but it's mainly just for pleasure. The running joke is my wife's got the 2 horses. I got 300 because I have an old 63 split window Corvette that I restored.
Oh, love it. What year?
63.
63.
That is the version of a family heirloom on my dad's side. So it was actually my grandfather's car that he bought in 64. And it's been in my family the whole time. And I did a frame off restoration that took about 8 years. So I have a very patient wife because I took up a 2-car garage for a very long period of time. But it's a super car, a lot of fun, and we like to go for weekend rides with that as well. So either we're riding on 4 legs or 4 wheels. Either way, if I'm riding something like that, it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Awesome. Mitch, you want to take him into our first nonsensical question?
I usually go second.
Well, okay, fair enough. Dan, you might have heard some of our nonsensical questions in our earlier episodes, and so we can't hit you with the same stuff.
Right.
So, in the same realm, let's say you are again in that same Roman Colosseum, a bunch of angry fans screaming your name. So, the door is opening up, and I want you to decide, would you rather box a kangaroo once or join a fight club for a year?
That is a really interesting question. I have not thought about before.
If you had, I'd be concerned.
Yep.
I would think it, as I mentioned, I've been in this industry for 35 years, so I'm not exactly in my 30s anymore. I'd have to go with the kangaroo. I don't think I could withstand the year of Fight Club. Let's put it this way. I've been dancing around 1,100-pound animals with 4 legs that are prey animals for years. Maybe I can deal better with the kangaroo than the Fight Club.
Nice.
How about that?
Fair enough.
All right, number 2. Not any more logical of a question, but would you rather, there's 3 options. Would you rather be able to talk to land animals, animals that fly, or animals that live underwater, and why?
It's got to be land animals. Why? Because when you have, as I mentioned, horses and they're 1,100-pound animals, or we have dogs as well. I think primarily when there's something wrong with them, I've always wanted to be able to talk to them and try to just have them tell me what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Dr. Doolittle, Dr. Detweiler, it's pretty close.
Yeah, I think having land animals that could tell me what was going on would certainly help. There's a whole lot of discipline around trying to become one with your animal, whether it's a horse or a dog, and that's all around trying to read their body signs. Well, wouldn't it be just a heck of a lot easier if they could just tell you?
Absolutely. Yeah, before you step into the Coliseum, they'll let you know that kangaroo likes to drop his left a lot. So.
That's good. Well, I could still run pretty good, so maybe that'll be my solution.
There you go. Well, yeah, like Brian said, we had to change it up since you've heard earlier episodes. If it gets to be that you've heard 5, 10 of those same questions, and it doesn't really catch you off guard, and you might be prepared for it, and that's the last thing that we want.
I was prepared for the duck the size of a horse or hundreds of ducks. I was ready for that one. So.
Well, and know that if you come back for a future episode, there's no amount of preparation you can do, because you try to get in our heads, you'll try to get out of it as quickly as you can.
Amen.
Well, Dan, any closing comments before we wrap up here?
No, I just, again, I want to thank you for the opportunity. And really, I want to just say that when the biggest pleasure I have working for Parker is working with people that are passionate about what they do, and they're sincere about it. And I really feel that I'm surrounded by those individuals, not only with the team that I have, but also within Parker, and gentlemen like you taking on this on the side of what your day jobs are. I know resources are always stretched to get the job done. We're always doing more with less, and for you guys to take the time to put a podcast together that's enjoyable and fun to listen to. And I've listened to the other episodes. I appreciate your efforts. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that means so much, I'm sure, to both of us. And likewise, speaking with, Parker individuals and this big family, the opportunity to speak with individuals like yourself, that's what keeps bringing us back every day and doing this. So you have everything to offer, and you will jump into some nonsensical questions and play with us a little bit. So thank you for coming on. So.
And just remember, it's all about the title of this episode, and you're going to hear this as we keep bringing this theme back. It's the power of Parker, and that doesn't just mean we've got the valve, we've got the cylinder, we've got the filter element. It's bringing it together, and it was on purpose that we chose to start with Dan's team, because they are by definition reaching to all these different groups, divisions, and putting together systems, and that's really when our customers see us as a partner, and that's what this is all about. So hope you guys enjoyed this. It certainly will not be the last type of episode we have on this kind of theme, but hopefully it strikes a chord with you.
Thank you very much for joining us, Dan. So until next time, we'll see you same place, different day.
But it will still be a beautiful day to make valves. Hey guys, what do you get when you cross the Atlantic Ocean and the Titanic?
I don't know.
Halfway. Just awful.
Pretty dark.